My parents really wanted to move, so I bought a place for them. What do you mean? My husband used our savings to buy an apartment for his parents without talking to me about it. We'll just save up again. Anyway, stop telling me what to do with my money. I felt nothing, no sadness or anger. It was like I fell into a void. And then I slowly held his hands. I met my husband Tom at a college party. He was sitting across from me on the couch and I noticed him looking at me. After a while, we went to a quieter corner outside and started talking. We had a lot in common, and it was fun to chat with him. We exchanged numbers and started dating. 2 years later, when I was 25, he proposed. I always wanted to get married and have a family, so I said yes. We got a small apartment near his parents, and I quit my job to stay home as he asked. Soon after, I got pregnant and had our son Leo. Around that time, my in-laws started inviting us over a lot. They never asked me directly but would tell Tom to ask me. I knew they wanted to see their grandson. They loved Leo and bought him toys. Leo, who was very attached to me, got used to them quickly, but every time I was at their house, I felt uncomfortable. Maria, if you're too busy with housework, you don't need to come over. We're fine with just Tom and Leo. I felt out of place. It seemed like they didn't want me there. Leo was still little and would cry if I wasn't around. I didn't want to leave him alone with my elderly in-laws, so I stayed. Even though they tried to push me out, it felt like they didn't like me, and their behavior toward me got worse. One day, I was cleaning the house when I got a call from Tom. He was panicking because his mom had hit her pinky on the table, and she called an ambulance. He gave me the hospital's name and told me to go immediately. She just bumped her pinky. Why am I the one going? I just did the same thing a few minutes ago. I was about to complain, but he hung up. I reluctantly went to the hospital. When I got there, I saw my mother-in-law sitting in the waiting room, chatting with other elderly people. When I called her, she said, "Oh, I just bumped it a little. Tom is overreacting. Go home and stop slacking off. I stopped what I was doing to come here for you, and now you say I'm slacking off?" I turned to leave. I heard her tell the others, "My daughter-in-law is awful at housework and so lazy. I don't know what to do with her, and she's so rude." I couldn't take it anymore and walked away. That night, I told Tom about it, but he just said, "Whatever, it's fine," and kept drinking beer. His lack of concern made me upset. "How is this fine? You're annoying. Stop complaining, I'm exhausted from work." He got mad, and we stopped talking for about a week. I started to worry that Tom wouldn't give me the money I needed for the next month. He was in charge of our finances, and I usually got a monthly allowance to cover everything. If he didn't give it to me, I wouldn't be able to manage. I was so worried that I apologized to him. He accepted it, and we went back to our usual life like nothing happened. Who knew something bigger was coming? Tom dropped a bomb on me just 3 days after we made up. His mom was having trouble walking, so we were supposed to move in with them. I, of course, refused. I plan to go back to work once Leo starts middle school. I can't keep taking care of her. "Well, then we'll get a divorce. You're a stay-at-home mom, so you won't be able to support Leo. I'll take custody." I didn't know how to respond. The truth was, I didn't have a job or the means to support him. Even if I found one, where would I leave Leo? My parents lived with my brother, his wife, and their 5 kids. I couldn't ask them to take on more. So I had no choice but to accept his demand again. We were supposed to break the lease on our apartment and move in with his parents at the end of the month. On moving day, his parents happily welcomed Tom and Leo, but they treated me differently, telling me the house rules and making sure I asked for permission to go out. It didn't feel welcoming at all. Since then, their treatment of me only got worse. One day, I came back from grocery shopping just before noon. I saw pizza boxes on the kitchen counter, and it seemed like they had just finished eating. I clearly told them when I left, "I'll make lunch, so please wait for me." "Oh, Maria, we were craving pizza, so we ordered. We left some for you on the dining table." "Thanks." I went to the dining room and opened the box. There was one piece of pizza. I felt frustrated to be left out again. The piece wasn't even whole, with a chunk missing. It looked like Leo had taken a bite. I didn't even get a full slice. I felt like Leo was mocking me, and my eyes started to tear up. Another time, it started raining while I was out. I'd left our sneakers in the sun, so I rushed back home. When I arrived, I found my mother-in-law had taken Tom and Leo's sneakers inside but left mine in the rain. Tom and my father-in-law acted like they didn't notice. At mealtimes, if I served a big plate to share, they would immediately take everything, leaving me nothing. So I started serving them smaller portions, but they complained it was too little. That's how things went. In the end, I kept my portion on the side and ate it after they were done. I tried so hard to keep my cool, but eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I was about to beg Tom to move out when, "Hey, I bought a new apartment. Let's go see it. You'll love it." I was shocked. We never talked about this, and where did the money come from? He rushed me to go with him. The apartment was a brand new building in the center of town, near a mall, school, and post office. The apartment was huge, bright, and had a great view. It seemed almost perfect. Just as I was about to ask about the important details, he said, "My parents really wanted to live here, so I bought it with the money from selling their house and our savings. Isn't it amazing?" What? What did he just say? He spent all the savings that were meant for Leo's education and our future retirement on this? How is that amazing? How could you be so selfish? Please cancel the contract. I was in complete panic and begged him to cancel. We'll just save again. You don't get to tell me what to do with my money. A housewife has no say. He snapped at me. You told me to quit my job and stay home. The word divorce hit me like a lightning bolt, and I ran out of the apartment. When I got home, my father-in-law was watching TV, and my mother-in-law was on the phone. I quickly gathered what I needed, packed a bag, and left a note that said, "Let's divorce," with my wedding ring on a desk. I rushed out of the house, holding Leo, who was half asleep. "Let's get a room at a motel for now." We wandered the streets, not knowing what to do next. Then I heard a woman's voice calling my name. "Maria, is that you?" "Oh my God, is it?" I turned around and instantly recognized her. "It's me, Amy. Remember me? It's been so long." She was a friend from high school. We had kept in touch for a while after graduation, but eventually drifted apart. She had divorced her cheating husband and moved back to our hometown last year. I told her about what was going on in my life, including the possibility of divorce. She was smart and said, "I know the best divorce lawyer. I'll give you his contact." The lawyer turned out to be the same guy I had a crush on in high school. I remembered him well. I wanted to give him a birthday gift, but there were already too many decorations and presents around his locker. I tried another locker he used for the tennis club, but it was the same. I even took a bus to his house, but his mailbox was too small, and a barking dog blocked the way to his porch. I didn't have the courage to give it to him directly, so I gave up and went home. A bittersweet memory of my youth. Amy gave me the lawyer's contact details, and I thanked her over and over. When we arrived, I couldn't waste any time, so I went straight to see him. I hadn't booked an appointment in advance, but I needed to do something. A kind middle-aged woman at the front helped me and said I was lucky. There had been a cancellation. She even offered to watch Leo while I met with the lawyer. I waited a bit, and then Adam, Mr. Jackson, came in. He was handsome back then, but he had only gotten more attractive with age. His face was still striking, and his body was well-toned. The way he wore his suit was incredible. Compared to him, Tom looked like a mess. "Thanks for waiting. I'm Adam Jackson. Nice to meet you," he said as he handed me his business card. I did the same, but I noticed my voice was shaking. "I'm sorry for showing up without an appointment," I said, and then explained the reason for my visit. He started asking me questions, but I could barely focus. His looks were distracting, and his voice was like a beautiful tenor. As I listened to him, I couldn't help but imagine him getting better with age, like George Clooney. We were in the office for about an hour and a half. It was the happiest time I had in a long while. I thanked Adam and the woman profusely before leaving. Leo had been good throughout the meeting, and I promised myself I would stay strong for him. While I got temporary custody, Adam continued negotiations with Tom. Of course, Tom wasn't easy to deal with. His rage was clouding his judgment, so we ended up going to trial. "Don't worry, this happens a lot. I've got this," Adam tried to reassure me. He gave me a ride to court on the day of the trial. When we got there, I felt a lump in my throat. I was about to see Tom for the first time since I left. As soon as he saw me enter the room, he yelled at me. "You, what the hell do you think you're doing? Who took care of you all these years? You owe me." He looked like he was about to charge at me, but his lawyer and the security quickly restrained him and dragged him into the hallway. I was terrified. Even though we were divorced, he might try to hurt me. I could hear him screaming, and his lawyer said this could make things worse. The police might get involved. Then it went quiet. We went through the hearing without any more issues. Afterward, Leo and I were offered to stay with Amy's parents. They ran a local diner and hired me as a waitress out of kindness. They also had an unused trailer in their backyard and offered it to us to stay in. One night, I don't know how they found out, but Tom's parents showed up at the house. They tried to cross the yard toward our trailer, but Amy's parents stopped them. "Hey, come out, you coward. Give us Leo," I heard them shouting. Amy signaled me to hide and went outside to deal with them. "If you don't leave right now, we'll call the police," she said as she dialed. They realized she was serious and tried to run away, but Amy's parents held them in place. A police officer arrived within a minute. After hearing both sides, the officer escorted my in-laws back to their car and made sure they left. I frantically apologized to Amy and her parents, then began packing my things, but they stopped me and insisted it was safer to stay with them. "Your divorce drama is quite the spectacle. I'm pumped to help you fight this," Amy joked, though her enthusiasm made me uneasy. Come to think of it, she was a fan of Spanish soap operas. 2 months later, thanks to Adam, I secured great alimony, custody, and child support. I was finally free to move on with my life, able to live without the weight of my past hanging over me. I held Leo tightly in my arms, comforting him, ensuring he knew I would always be by his side. Before leaving Adam's office, I thanked him for everything he'd done, then told him I had known him from high school. He didn't remember me, but was kind enough to say I could always count on him if I needed anything. The incident with my in-laws spread throughout the neighborhood, and soon the neighbors saw Tom as an abusive husband. Embarrassed, Tom and his parents moved to another town. Tom sold the new apartment and gave me half of the profit. He was in debt from the trial and still had to pay me alimony and child support, so he ended up living in a trailer park. I had feared his retaliation, but he wasn't as reckless as I'd thought. He never tried to contact me again. As for my in-laws, they continued to show up at my place even after the police warned them. Eventually, they were arrested. After spending time in jail, they both fell ill and were placed in a facility by Tom. As for me, I still worked at the diner. "Hey Maria, take a break. Let's grab something to eat." "Thanks, yeah, let's eat." I took off my name tag and sat down in a booth. Amy joined me with a cheeky grin on her face. "So how's it going with Adam?" "Going straight to the point, huh?" "Of course, I want all the details," she asked eagerly. Adam had asked me out not long after our last meeting, and we started seeing each other. This weekend he was meeting Leo officially for the first time. I told Amy about it. "Wow, Leo's finally meeting him. Where are you guys going?" "Who suggested bringing Leo?" she asked excitedly, bombarding me with questions. "Good food, great friends, and a re-encounter with my old crush. Despite all the terrible experiences I had, I'm grateful I found the courage to leave that old life behind. Now I feel like I'm standing at the end of the tunnel, and I know that from now on, I'll be surrounded by good people supporting each other. More than anything, I'm thankful and blessed to be able to stay with Leo. I will live my life on my own terms, and I know I've got a solid support system behind me."